All right, here we are with our third video chat, and it's two of us tonight. It's
Yeah.
my buddy Jeff Ivy and me, David Nowell. Walt
Hey.
Ravon is he's unable to make it, but he will definitely be here on the next one, I think, because he was disappointed. But
Yes.
we were trying to come up with something to talk about, something real quick, and we've talked about how our musical taste, how that's kind of what brought us together, and we talked about what was before, but since we've all lived in the same town, we've all scattered, our musical tastes have kind of changed a little bit. And we were hoping that Walt could give us his stuff, because I know his musical taste has changed somewhat too. But do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
No, I can go first, man. It's fine.
All right, all right.
But let's see. Always, it will always be metal to me, you know, and hard rock. But the type of metal has changed definitely uh over, let's see, I'll say I'd say, grunge came in and that was pretty cool. I liked, like the Alice in Chains and the Soundgarden and all that stuff. But to me, what I started listening to on a steady basis and really grew to love more and more was progressive metal. And Queensryche always have been a big, you know, uh part of that to me. That's what basically got me started on that. And then in 92, um I saw a video by Dream Theater called Pull Me Under, and that was like, bam, that drew me in quick because of the keyboards and the heavy guitar and the James LaBrie's vocals. But the whole mix was just something incredible to me.
Yeah.
And the
Oh
weird
yeah.
signatures and things that progressive metal is.
And the way
uh
they used the keyboard player
oh
was
yeah, it was like
pretty damn awesome, because it didn't make it less metal. It actually
no.
made it more metal.
Yeah, yeah. It was a main instrument. It wasn't a filler. You know, everybody in those bands are at the top of their game musically. They went to school for it and all that stuff. John Petrucci blew my mind when I first heard him. Because it was just. I mean, of course, Malmsteen was a big. I loved Malmsteen. And I guess some of his music had some progressive elements in it too.
Well, it definitely wasn't simple stuff. So
No,
yeah, I can definitely see there's some
no,
and
you know.
classical, if not progressive, classical
Oh
definitely.
yeah, man. Good God. He turned me on to that big time, when I first heard him. But like I said, it was 92 when I heard Dream Theater, and it got me really into the progressive metal. And I know progressive rock has been around. You got Yes and you got all those bands, you got Rush and they're influenced by Rush and Yes and all those bands too, Kansas and you know, uh but after I heard them, my curiosity just grew and grew and grew, and I was listening to more and more progressive metal, and I fell in love with bands like Dream Theater, of course, and you know, the Symphony X came out in the late '90s, and I really got turned on by them. And I didn't really start listening to them heavy till like '98 or '99. Um, and just got heavy into those guys and specifically Russell Allen, who has come to be one of my top favorite singers of all time, um, because he had the power, he had the grit, and he could hit high notes, and he had a lot of blues influenced vocal. um, but he delivered it in
Yeah.
that progressive element, and it just made it sound so freaking killer. And I became a big fan of those guys. Saw them. I'm seeing them live twice, and great performers. But you know, and progressive metal, and I cannot continue without mentioning a band that I saw on like in the back of magazines, that like Shrapnel, that
Yeah.
label.
Yeah.
It's got all the guitar virtuosos and all them. Everybody's at the top of their game on that label. And I saw an advertisement for a band called Haji's Kitchen. You've heard, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, Haji's Kitchen out of Texas, and it said it was a cross between Pantera, Racer X, and Alice in Chains, and I was like, ooh, And so I went and bought their CD. And at first, when I heard it, I was like, this is pretty cool, But the more I listened to it, the more I was drawn to it, and it hooked me. It's one of those albums that, one of those deserted island albums. If you're trapped on an island, what album would you have? And that would definitely be one of them, the first Hodges Kitchen album. And that's progressive metal, but it's heavy and grungy. The vocals weren't really soaring high, but they were the harmonies, they were so Alice in Chains like, and the whole mix was just incredible, and so I've been a big fan of them for a long time, which now I hate to be rude, but I went jogging and running, and I ate before I did that. It was a big boo-boo. But anyway, me and Laurel did that, and it was like 20 minutes after I ate, and that's not a good idea. So if you see me or whatever, just disregard. Just don't worry about it.
That's okay, because when I do mine, I'm going to pass gas for most of it. So,
oh Lord have mercy, I'm surprised I ain't done that yet. I'm bad for that too. The older you get, the more the more it happens, and it's like, where did all that come from? Anyway,
well, I was going to say,
isn't
it funny how there's some albums and songs that the minute you hear them, you instantly connect, but then there's other albums where you hear it and you go, oh, I like this. But as time goes by, you start going, whoa, wait, this is much better than I ever would have imagined.
And I'll give you an example of that as well. When I first heard Seventh Star by Black Sabbath with Tony Iommi, it came out in '86, and it had one of my favorite. Probably he's way up there. He's probably number one. Glenn Hughes singing on it. When I first heard it, I was like, it's just kind of, I couldn't really grasp onto it. But that's another album. Now it is like in my top 5 at least albums.
Wow.
That I would have with me. If I had to have 3, if I had to have an album on a deserted island, that would be one of them as well. And he brought a whole new thing, with his blues vocals and everything to Tony Iommi's guitar, and it was one of the best mixtures that could ever happen. Seventh Star, it came out in '86, and that album is superb. But and then later on in the '90s and the late '90s and early 2000s, I got into bands like Seven Dust. They're a great band, and they're heavy and chunky, and it's the new metal kind of stuff. But the vocals and the harmonies are the big part of that, and I like those guys a lot, And it's just other bands, man, that I've discovered with my Amazon Music and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a band called 12 Foot Ninja that's really unique. They're heavy, but they're jazzy too. And then there's there's so many cool bands that are out nowadays, man, that nobody knows about, but I just found them on Amazon and of course YouTube and the internet and all that stuff, but it's mainly right now my love is I like the heavy progressive music, but I also like the heavy I don't know how to categorize it, the music like Seven Dust. I like that stuff, especially to work out to.
Yeah.
It is great to work out to music like that, man, because it's so full of aggression and it pushes you, and it definitely pushes me, man. I'll have my headphones on, man. I'll get lost in my own little world, lifting God knows what. But, I don't know, man. That's me. Just, but mainly it's like I said, my roots, you know, Van Halen and Malmsteen and Dokken and Lynch and all that, but I've expanded. And of course, later on down the line, me and you talked about this today. We're going to talk about our love for the pop.
Yeah.
So, I can't wait to talk about that, man. That's gonna be a lot of fun. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things gonna be brought up, man. A lot of musicians gonna be brought up, and it's just gonna be like, wow, But I love the pop.
Oh yeah.
I love,
Oh yeah.
you know. But anyway, that's it for me. I don't know if I explained it too well or not, but
I
that's
think so.
just that's what I like nowadays. A lot of guitar driven stuff too. I like a lot of instrumental stuff.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of instrumental, like guitar, like Greg Howe, Malmsteen, Lynch. They've got albums out there, just instrumentals. And I like that stuff too, man. So
Yeah.
anyway, but you go ahead and explain your music, what
Uh,
you've come to like.
well, when I left Garner and I went to college up at Appalachian State, I
Yeah,
still listening to the hair metal and stuff, but I had a few bands that I were picking up new, and I was stuck out like a sore thumb because that's not what most people were listening to. But I will say there was a moment in my second year where people were like, "Holy cow, how do you know all these bands?" Because all the bands I was listening to, the last hair metal gasp came, and they
yeah,
were like, "Wait a minute, how do you know this band Extreme that did more than words?" They go, "How do you know this band Mr. Big that has to be with you?"
yeah,
And it was like all these bands, the last gasp of hair metal when they were having these big hits.
yeah,
And that was the second time I listened to music that everybody did. First time, like I said, is when Def Leppard and Bon Jovi exploded, and then
yeah,
there was that, and then Nirvana released their album, and then I was really uncool music wise.
yeah.
So, after that, hair metal just died, and I did what I could to buy the albums and stuff, and I was
Yeah.
pretty much still following the same bands.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
and it was getting to the point where I was like, man, they were kind of disappearing and falling off, and I'm like, what am I going to listen to? And the thing that saved me was in Metal Edge magazine. They had advertisements for Impulse Music,
Yeah.
and that was imports coming from other places. And
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
would look and I would see offshoots of the bands that I grew up with. I see Joey Tempest solo album.
Mhm.
I see Lion has turned into Bad Moon Rising.
Yeah,
I
which is
see
good shit.
Joe Lynn Turner and Jeff Scott Soto releasing solo albums and releasing different projects. And so basically, what I did was because, not like my music was played anywhere, and Metal Edge eventually pretty much got rid of it too. But
Let me ask you a question.
go ahead.
Who's Jeff Scott Soto?
Yeah, I only mentioned 400 times before it's
Yeah,
over with.
I got
But it's like I just started
you.
following. A lot of times I followed the voice. I followed the singers.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the way I kept up with music. And
Yeah.
eventually there became more bands that I started discovering. But honestly, for a whole long time, everything was based on 80s bands. And luckily, albums weren't being released here, but overseas, it was going crazy. All these bands were still releasing music. And the sad part was, some of that stuff was better than the stuff that was big, that was getting played on the radio, but it stood no chance, still stands no chance. So, you know, I got where basically I wasn't buying anything from the stores. Everything was coming import.
That's the only way. That's the only way you could get decent stuff.
Yeah. And some of the artists had been releasing stuff for years that I didn't know about. So I'm going back and buying all this stuff and then, catching up. But, you know, I've always I've always been into the same kind of music. I want it to be happy. And, I noticed for a while there in the 2000s, I still loved all the bands and I was still buying all the albums. But there was one thing that was kind of missing, and that was the fun. They were still, they felt like they couldn't be fun. You know, they can't sing about going after girls and
No, no.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I believe it was in 2009. I'm on iTunes, and iTunes is
Yeah.
offering a free song.
I know
And
where this is going.
yeah, and I look at it and I go, wait a minute, these guys, they kind of look like something I would listen to.
Yeah.
And so I downloaded it and I played it, and it was Death to All But Metal by
Yeah.
Steel Panther.
Now, is it death to all but metal or death to all but metal?
It all depends on whether it's 1, 2, or 2.
I got
but
you, man.
but you know, I heard it and I liked the song, and I was like, well, the lyrics are kind of funny, you know. But I'm thinking maybe it's just in this one song.
And
So
as you dug a little deeper, he's like, whoop.
I bought the album, and it was just, it's offensive, it's dirty, it's misogynist, it's everything that's bad, but it's done for fun.
It's genius. That's what it is.
Basically, they were singing, they were saying what Motley Crue wanted to say.
Yeah.
Where Motley Crue couldn't just come out and say it. Steel Panther was like, oh, we're gonna say it, you know. And
hey, eating ain't cheating, buddy.
Yeah. And it just after that, you know, I went and saw them, and I love the guys. They're just great. But that's kind of where my music's always been. But, you know, if you can notice from my little handle, Mr. Hair Metal, you know, for a long time, calling a band hair metal, that was like a horrible thing. Like, you know, you were basically spitting in their face. But there was part of me one day that went, you know what? I'm going to embrace this, because all these people who are complaining about my music, they're either listening to crap, or they're listening to complaint rock, or they're listening to stuff where there's no happiness to it. And just like if you listen to pop from the 70s and 80s, there was a fun to it.
Oh yeah. That's
what hair metal was. So yeah, mine has probably changed the least from us growing up. Walt, I'm real curious to hear what he's going to say about it. But yeah, mine really hasn't changed that much. It's just expanded. But you know, thank goodness for artists like Joe Lynn Turner and Jeff Scott Soto, who have put out, Jeff, I think he said he's put out like 70 albums where he's done the majority of the singing, and Joe Lynn's probably got like 30 or 40. And I bought all those, you know, and just, it was awesome to me. I just loved it.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to keep the flag flying, you know.
And what's interesting, most of the stuff I listen to, there's no way I'll ever get to see them live, because most of the stuff is projects, and they are never ever going to go out there and tour. So whereas I think Walter's
too, you know,
where Walter, I think a lot of the bands he's going to say he loves now, it's because he's seen them live. Most of the stuff I listen to, it just ain't happening, you know. But that's okay.
But you have seen some of your favorite people. Recently, like you've seen Scoto, Jeff Scott Soto.
Well,
you've seen Tony Harnell.
Two of my Mount Rushmore singers. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, man.
And and I have to throw. But
you were up and close with them. Oh yeah, that's cool.
And if I'm talking about Jeff Scott Soto, he did it with Jason Bieler. From Saigon Kick. And I went for Jeff Scott Soto, and I was like, first of all, great show, just like Steel Panther. There was as much comedy to it as it was music. But Jason Bieler just blew me away. His vocals, he has such a unique style. That I was like, wow, this guy can really sing. I knew he could play guitar, but watching them two together, and then seeing Tony Harnell, both of them just in little teeny clubs, up close, personal. And I'm to the point now, I would rather see that than go to an arena show.
Yeah. And me too. I mean, you know, I can't really remember the last big show that I went to, you know, and enjoyed. You know, it's been a while, you know, but I don't know, man. I mean, we went to go see Winger in Charlotte. That was a good show, huh?
Yeah.
That was a real good show. And then the Steel Panther and the Judas Priest
That
in
was great.
South Carolina we saw. That was really, really good.
I was amazed at how Steel Panther kind of won the audience over.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well, you
I
know,
was thinking, man, Steel Panther opening for Judas Priest.
so,
This could go wrong real quick. And instead, they just went out there and they did their thing. And I think
yeah,
they had them, by about the second song. I think they reeled them in.
yeah.
But
I've seen Steel Panther 3 times. You've seen him how many times?
I think I've only seen them maybe 4 times.
I got it. Yeah. But
But
the thing about them is that, like you said earlier, you said the banter between the songs was just as key as the actual songs.
yeah,
It's just as entertaining and freaking hilarious, man.
yeah,
It made it so much better. It was kick ass to begin with, I mean, they delivered.
yeah.
I mean, they delivered, but as far as in between talking and all that stuff, just genius stuff, man.
And in the meet and greet, I did a meet and greet. And it was only a second. I took a picture,
Yeah.
which I'm so proud of. I got a poster of it on my wall.
Yeah.
But they genuinely acted like they were as happy we were there as we were. Now that could be 100% an act, but I really appreciated that they were given energy. And you
Yeah.
meet most of them, they're kind of low key, and which is cool too. But it's like they kept they kind of had the show going even before the show when you were
Yeah.
meeting them. And
Oh
I
yeah.
just I just thought they were awesome, and just incredible musicians. And if I tell anybody, if you can keep from being offended, you're gonna have fun.
Oh yeah.
But
And they push it, you
oh
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They push it. I mean, luckily we can listen to it and
yeah,
it don't bother us. Um, but a lot of people be like, it's a
yeah.
little
And
that's not good.
and if you go to a show, there's a possibility that you might be getting picked on, just
Yeah.
like if you go to a comedy show.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know some people can't take that. I love that. I'm like, oh, okay, you
Bring it on.
want to make me a small part of this? Please do. Please
Bring
do.
it on.
I like a
Hey
little
man.
attention occasionally.
Yeah, man. It's because they bring all them girls up and there's always that one chick that just does some crazy freaky stuff and
Yeah.
they pounce on her. But it's all fun. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely
Yeah.
it's definitely all fun, which is the important thing. It's fun.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
that's
it's cool
whether
to go
people
to.
whether people want to admit it or not, that's what the whole 80s hair metal thing was. It was just fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, they were chasing girls, but they weren't having to go find the girls. The girls were lining up
Oh,
in
all
the
right.
in the clubs, in the arenas,
Yeah,
and they were wilder than I'll ever be. But I loved all that. It's Bon Jovi, In and Out of Love. That's the
yeah.
video, the song, everything. That's what it was. Except neither one of us looked like John Bon Jovi.
Lord have mercy. No, no, not at all. Not at all. Not then. You look more like him at a couple of,
Yeah,
there was a point in time where you kind of favored him,
yeah.
but I never favored Bon Jovi. I
Trust
didn't
me.
favor anybody.
Amy wishes I looked like Bon Jovi. She would love that.
Oh man.
But we got about 3.5 more minutes. Uh,
Okay.
and I mean, I think we got into some stuff. Like I said, I hate that Walt's not here because
Yeah,
I know I'm pretty sure he's coming from a different direction than both
that
of
would
us.
have been a different flavor. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
but
that would have been added to the mix, and yeah,
yeah, we
because
might. I was
we'll
just gonna
see.
say we might get him to talk about that on the next one before we get into a topic, and hopefully next time we're gonna come up with a specific topic and actually get into it because that I think that's what I mainly wanted to do is just introduce people to music that they may not know about.
Yeah.
And but before we go, Jeff, tell us about your band, tell us what you're doing, and if anything you want to talk about.
Well, like it's Voodoo. I'm in a band called Voodoo. It's a Black Sabbath. Well, mainly it's a Dio era Black Sabbath tribute, but we do Dio solo. We do Rainbow. We just mix it all up. Right now we've got 18 songs, and we've played a few gigs. We've played about 7 or 8 gigs, and they've all went well,
Yeah.
And we've got a gig coming up the 18th of October. We're playing in Fayetteville. That just popped up, so I'm excited about it. It's nice to have a gig to look. I told them today, it's always nice to have a gig to look forward to,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is. It always it gets my adrenaline going,
Oh yeah.
and it's just fun, and now
I
it's just,
would love to do that one time, but
oh man, it's always been fun, I don't like the work part of it, like I said, we're talking about opening for Queensryche and George Lynch and all that. Being on stage was the actual fun part,
oh
but
yeah.
all that other stuff, it wasn't fun, man. But just getting up there and playing the music and singing, whether I get paid or not, it don't matter to me. I
Yeah.
get up there because I like to showcase myself, and I like the band to showcase, and
Well,
I like to prove to people that I may be 54, but I can still do what I did when I was 20.
yeah.
It's
Well,
cool.
I think that if I could pull it off,
Oh yeah,
I would be
you'd
doing a
be
hair
jumping
metal
right on it.
cover band
Yeah.
and wouldn't care if there were 4 people out there. I would still be trying to put on David Lee Roth pants and dancing across the stage. But
Hey
well,
man, yeah, yeah, do it. I mean, it's fine. It's just fine if you're able to be a part of it, be a part of it. But the
yeah,
most important thing is to listen to it, to have to have the passion to listen to music and let it affect you.
yeah,
Whether it make you cry, make you mad, make you happy. If it affects you, man, that's strong.
yeah,
I think that's what music's all about. And if you can listen to music and enjoy it, then man, that's the best part of it. It's the
yeah.
best part of it.
Well,
Seriously, it's the best
we're,
thing in the world.
we're getting ready to get cut off. So you gonna give me a call tomorrow?
Yes, I will call you tomorrow on my
Uh,
way home from Mebane.
all right,
But
I'll send you the link as soon as I post this, and hopefully it'll turn out pretty good, and uh, maybe give
all right,
Walt some ideas to talk with us about. All
all
right,
right, my friend.
take it easy, man.
You too, man. Take care.
Bye.